You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account. From Apple to VIX and everything in between, if it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report. If you're listening to this show, chances are you're pretty serious about options trading. So let me put something on your radar. Public. It's the most cost-effective way to trade options. That's because Public is the only platform that gives you rebates on your options trades. They also have some of the industry's lowest index options fees. Whether you're placing single leg or complex multi-leg trades, every dollar counts. Check out public.com/optionsbrief and discover the most cost-effective way to trade options. Paid for by Public Investing. Full disclosures in podcast description. And now, get ready to scan the tape for the most explosive options activity on the street. It's time for the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is Wednesday. It is September 10th. It is time to rock out with the son of Odin, a.k.a. Thor, a.k.a. the Hot Options Report. Let's get down to business, shall we? Let's kick it off. In the land of VIX options, listeners, was it a hot day out there in the VIX landscape? The answer was actually yes, surprisingly yes, which is interesting because on a mixed day, Dow off, the NASDAQ flat, the S&P up slightly. Not exactly a recipe for a banger day out there in VIX, yet that's exactly what we had out there in VIX options. Over 1.16 million contracts changing hands out there in VIX land today. And what was the hot option out there in all things VIX? Well, if you guessed nearly 100,000, 95,000 of the October 50 calls for an average price of 30 cents. A, I'd be scared because you're eerily precise, and B, you are the winner chicken dinner out there. Looks like we had some vertical action going up out there, OC 3050, and a bunch of other fun out there, listeners, including the DEES pars, the DEES 100s. Going up again, the DEES 60 par vertical as well. So all sorts of fun. Usually when you see VIX put up these kinds of numbers on an otherwise kind of inconsequential day, chances are there's some wild spread action going up, and that's pretty much what we saw out there in VIX land. Moving on to SPY. Was it a hot day in SPY? The answer also, yeah, pretty decent. 8.3 million contracts on the tape against an average of 7.8 million, so fully 500,000 more contracts on the tape out there in SPY land. And what was the hot option out there in SPY today? It was nearly 600,000, 598,000 of the 654 calls. SPY going out right around 652 and a quarter. So unfortunately, you know what I'm going to say. If you paid anything, or in this case, the average price of 42 cents for those, and you held them into the close, not exactly a winner chicken dinner for you. By the way, I didn't mention VIX going out right around 15 and a third in VIX cash, if you were wondering out there as well. All right, out to the land of the SPX. You know, VIX was hot, SPY was hot. You'd be forgiven for assuming that the SPX was hot as well today. The answer was also, yeah, it was out there. Pretty decent day. The average about 3.9 million, exceeding that, nearly 4.3 million contracts going up out there in SPX land today. The hot option and a decently hot day in the S, 153,000 of the 6550 calls going up for an average price of $3.42. The SPX, unfortunately, not closing there, 65.32, pretty much exactly out there, listeners. So it looks like hope sprung eternal for the 65 halves. Didn't quite get there by the end of the day. As we keep on rolling out to small caps, listeners, are we 4 for 4 in terms of bangers out there right now? Did small caps follow suit and put up a banger volume day? The answer was, yeah, it's pretty decent. I mean, it didn't exceed its ADV, but it came pretty darn close to hitting it. The ADV is 1.39 million, hit about 1.32 million contracts in small caps. So all things considered, and given the fact that that ADV is a wee bit inflated right now, not a bad day. What was the hot option on a decent day out there in small caps? 85, almost 86,000 of the 238 calls. Average price for those, 31 cents. Expiring today, by the way, listeners, so back to 0-day fun. Small caps jump all over the place. Today, they're back in 0-day fun. And if you're saying, well, those sound pretty good, unfortunately, small caps going out 236.43, so not a winner chicken dinner for those if you bought them and held them all the way to the close. All right, out to the NASDAQ. The Qs we go. Was it a banger day out there in the NASDAQ? The answer was yes, pretty decent. The ADV is about 4.15 million right now, putting up a little over 4.25 million, so slightly exceeding their ADV. The hot option on a decently hot day out there in the NASDAQ today, 287,000 of the 583s. The 583 calls, average price for those, 65 cents. Unfortunately, going out a little bit below that strike today, a little bit shy of 581, about 580.70 is where the Qs went out today. But I can hear a lot of you asking, what about the single names? Let's get out there, listeners. Let's find out. Was it a spicy day out there in single names? You know, interesting stuff. You know, it didn't seem on the surface like it was going to shape up to be a rock'em sock'em robots day. And yet that's kind of what we got out there across the board. You know, sometimes it's the sneaky ones that surprise you out there, because it cost you over 751,000, 761,000 contracts to break into the top 10 in open out there today, listeners. So pretty wild stuff. I mean, open falling all the way to number 10, but that said, 761,000 contracts would have been enough for at least number 5, if not number 4 or 3 on a previous day out there. So again, it shows you how much paper was changing hands out there today. And what was the hot option on a hot day in open? 56, almost 57,000 of the 6 calls expiring on Friday. Average price of 28 cents. You can do the math. Got to close 628 by Friday. Didn't quite get there today, closing $5.86. But hey, got a few more days. Can we get there? Open can easily move that far. So we'll keep an eye on those as we keep on going all the way out to good old Broadcom, aka AVGO. Was it a hot day in Broadcom? Yeah, they had a decent day. If you can call rallying nearly 10% a decent day, that's exactly what they did, closing a little bit shy of 370, 369.57. Again, popping hard, nearly 10% out there today. So a good day to go to AVGO, putting up 785,000 contracts for the number 9 spot. The hot option out there and a hot day on AVGO, a comparatively light 22,000. Compare that to open, 56,000. Only 22,000 to take the top spot in Broadcom. That gets us to the 375s. Average price of $2.43 for those. So we need Broadcom to run a little bit by the end of the week. But then again, 5 handles and change is really nothing for Broadcom these days. So we'll keep an eye on that by Friday's close as we keep on rolling in the land of A tech names to number 8. Coming in at number 8, listeners, it's our old pals, the Amazonians, closing today 230 and a third, giving up nearly $8 or about a little over 3, about 3 1/3%, putting up 812,000 contracts on the tape. The hot option out there in Amazon land today, 60,000 of the 235s. Average price of about $1.25. We did get there today. We got up to 237 and about 2/3. So those were more than $2 in the money, hence that fairly juicy price. Now looking a little bit distant in the rearview mirror. Can we get back there by Friday's close? I guess we'll find out as we keep on rolling in the A tech names to number 7. It's AMD, closing today 159.54. Rallying about almost 2.5%, putting up 833,000 contracts. The hot option on a hot day in AMD, 57,000 of the 165 calls. Average price for these, about $1. And again, we did almost get there today, 164.5, so that probably puts those 165s in a little bit better context for you. $1 for those. If you bought them, you're probably wishing you didn't right now, so we'll keep an eye on those. Got a few more sessions. Anything could happen, but they are looking kind of rough right now as we keep on rolling to number 6, listeners. This is our newcomer into the top 10 for today. This is good old PG&E. We talked about them before, obviously. Probably most recently with the big California fires, and then, of course, the litigation that followed. But they're back in the top 10 today. Ticker symbol PCG. Closing today, 15 and a quarter. Rallying about 2% or about 30 cents. Putting up 984,000 contracts out there for good old PG&E. Don't see a lot of utilities rocketing into our top 10 very often, which is kind of interesting. They put up about 10x their ADV out there today, listeners. Looks like there was some information, some reports on a wildfire fund boost. Either way, hot action out there today, listeners. This time we're going to the monthlies because utilities don't tend to play in the weeklies. PCG, the hot option today, 184,000, wild size, of the SEP 16 calls against 155,000 of the OX16s. Looks like a bit of a roll action, closing probably on the SEP, opening definitely on the Octobers. By the way, if you're wondering, the SEP's going up for about 43 cents, the October 69 cents. So if they were doing that roll for around 26 cents. So interesting stuff out there, listeners. Wild paper in PG&E, but we're not done with P names. Nope, keep on rolling to number 5, listeners. It's Palantir, 166.74, up nearly $4.50 or about 2.7%. So a hot day for them. Over 1 million contracts on the tape, 1.03 million to be precise. The hot option out there, 84,000 of the 167.5 calls. Average price on those, $2.50. We did get there today, got up to 169. So can we get back there by Friday's close, listeners? I guess we'll find out as we keep on rolling to number 4. Back to the A tech names we go. It's Apple, the fruit company, selling off a wee bit today. I guess the buy the rumor, sell the fact trade continues. The street not liking what they're hearing apparently out of that their product releases yesterday. 226.79 off $7.50 or another 3.25%. So they have shed some value over $10. So like $13-14 over the last few sessions out there. So Apple was looking kind of robust, giving some of that back out there, putting up 1.66 million contracts on the tape for the fruit company today. The hot option out there, the 230s, expiring on Friday. Average price of $1.30, 124,000 of those changing hands today. You opened right around 232, so makes sense why maybe some of those 230s looking a little bit juicier. You like those for $1.30? Obviously, Apple needs to get in gear by Friday if those are going to pay off if you're buying them. As we keep on rolling to another name we don't talk about a lot. You know it's the tail end of earnings season when they're making it onto the hot options report. It's Oracle. My goodness, what a report. And they had just a smoking report, closing 328 and a third, rallying nearly 87 handles or 36%. Their last number was a banger too. Oracle keeps kind of coming out of nowhere. Just stunned with these numbers. As a result, Larry Ellison taking the top spot, world's richest man, kicking Musk to the curb. Wild stuff here in Oracle. 1.72 million contracts on the tape in Oracle today. Interestingly enough, not wild speculative upside, is actually downside. That was the hot option in Oracle today. 67, almost 68,000 of the par puts, the 300 puts, expiring on Friday. Average price of $1.12. Wow. So if you're a believer in this rally, listener, sold to you on those puts, that's free money. If you think this is a whole heck of a lot of much ado about nothing, then maybe you want to scoop those. Can we revert back below the par strike? And anything is possible. You rallied nearly 90 handles today, but wild stuff out here in Oracle. But you know what? Speaking of Musk, he still is taking the number 2 spot on the options charts today. Tesla, 1.9 million contracts, closing 347.79, up about 80 cents today. So not a huge mover for them. The hot option out there in Tesla today, 122,000 of the 360s. Got up to 356 in the third earlier today, so maybe that makes those 360s trading for an average price of 214 a little more palatable. Either way, if they're going to remain relevant, Tesla's got to get in gear by the end of the week. And the big dog out there today, our old pal NVDA, nearly 4 million, 3.95 million. You might say that's a lot of paper, and it is. But NVIDIA, by the way, closing 177 in the third, up $6.50 or nearly 4%. So a banger day out there for them today as well. But they also went ex-div today. So that could also explain why we had just some explosive options paper out there. The hot option in NVIDIA, 310,000 of the 180 calls, average price of $1.25. 180, you know the math, listeners, got to get out by the end of the week, 181.25. Can NVIDIA get back there? They got to 179.29 today. Can they get to 181.25? Stay tuned to the hot options report throughout the week to find out. And that's going to do it for your hot options report for Wednesday, September 10th. Hope you're having a good trading week out there. Back again tomorrow. All kinds of shows coming at you. The option block with the Flow Master and Uncle Mike. Twifo, who's going to join us? Got to tune in to find out. And then, of course, back again after the closing bell tomorrow. Another episode of the Hot Options Report. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Check out public.com/optionsbrief and discover the most cost-effective way to trade options. Paid for by Public Investing. Full disclosures in podcast description.